So I think most of us have heard that in business, in marketing, if you're trying to build a brand, whether it's a brand for your business or your personal brand, story is really important. Storytelling is really important. Being able to share our own story is incredibly important. But I think the problem that a lot of us run into is, and it sounds strange at first, but what is my story? How do I know what my story is? And how do I communicate that story in a way that is going to hold someone's attention, that is going to make them want to know more, that is going to make them take action. And that's not an easy thing to do. I think one of the main things that stories do is they help us connect with one another. You think about sitting around a fire, campfire at night, telling stories, sharing stories, whether they are, something that happened to me this week or something that happened to me years ago. It just really makes you feel connected to another person, and if you have read the same book as somebody, you feel like you kind of have a shared experience, something you can talk about, something that you can connect over. So stories, as human beings, bring us together and connect us. Stories also, they bring together kind of ideas and emotions, sort of the head and the heart. They help us connect, facts, things that actually happened, actually occurred, with sort of the emotions behind those stories. And I think, stories, almost like nothing else, bring those two things together. Another thing that stories do is they hold our attention. I don't know if you've ever found yourself maybe watching something on Netflix, and the next episode thing comes up and you think maybe just one more, and that goes, happens 3 or 4 more times, and before you know it, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Stories hold our attention, they draw us in, we want to hear more. We can read about something, sort of the textbook idea of here's what this is and here's how this concept works. But if we hear it put into a story, it just really brings it to life. It helps us to understand it in context, to understand how it applies to real life. So stories are incredibly powerful. So, back to that question again, what's my story? How do I figure that out? And how do I share it in an effective way? I think some key things that we can do to help us do that better is, first of all, we have to believe that our story is important. We hear all these stories of people that accomplished great things, that, if you're talking about business, that build $1 billion business, or people that had these incredible adventures and all these challenges that they've overcome. And we can kind of make our story unimportant. We can kind of put it down, because it doesn't quite hold up by comparison. But I think everyday stories are really powerful, are important. They can inspire people. A lot of the time they are more relatable than something that happens on the world stage or has all these huge stakes. So you have to believe your story is important. I think another key is to keep your story simple. There's definitely a place for being able to communicate your story in maybe a more long form. Maybe you'll write a book someday, you write your autobiography, but I think it's important to be able to share your story, to share what you're all about in a very simple, almost kind of like an elevator pitch. If you only have 30 seconds to do it, be able to share your story and know what kind of the highlights, what the important parts are. I think it's incredibly important that we know our why. This was a concept that was popularized by a speaker and author named Simon Sinek. The first talk, TED Talk that I saw from him, he talks about something that he calls the golden circle. And on the outside of the circle is what you do. What's your business? You sell printers, or you repair guitars, or whatever the business is. That's what you do. The next circle inside there is how you do it. What sets you apart. You have the best customer service, or your product is higher quality than your competitors. But at the center of the circle is why you do what you do. What's driving you? What are you all about? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to change in the world? And he says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So it's just an incredibly important concept to know what your why is, what's your mission, what's driving you. And then I think once we know those things, it's really important for us to write our story down. There's just something about putting pen to paper or typing it out. That's okay too. But you have to get it down and just kind of look at it and be able to sort of pull it apart and analyze it and make it better. So it's really important to write your story down. And then once you've done that, you want to share it with somebody. You want to share it with a friend or family member, somebody that you trust, somebody that knows you, and ask for their feedback, kind of have a conversation about your story. Maybe they see some things that you haven't seen. They have insights that you might not have even thought of. So ask for that feedback. And then another thing that I think is important is to sort of let your story evolve over time, because there may be things that you have a certain understanding of at this point, but as you go forward, you might look back and say, well, that moment that I didn't see as significant, really had a huge impact. So don't be afraid to kind of look back at your story and let it change as you grow. Of course, you're going to have new experiences going forward, but I think those new experiences are going to can sort of help you reinterpret the past in different ways as well. So don't be afraid to let your story evolve in that way. This is part of what I do in my business, is I help people discover their story as part of creating a brand or uncovering what their brand is. So I'll sit down with them and I will do an interview. I'll ask them questions about their upbringing, how they got to where they are, what they love about what they do. And then as they go through their story, I'll kind of find connecting threads, that this thing has been important all the way through. If I'm working for a business that has multiple employees and different stakeholders, I like to talk to employees that have been there for a long time, or I'll talk to customers that they've had. And if there's a theme, if there are multiple themes through their different answers, I know that I'm really onto something, and that's something that's really important about their story that we really want to emphasize. Story is incredibly important for people that want to communicate something, want to have something that they're selling or something that they want to accomplish. Knowing our story and communicating it is really powerful. So take the time, uncover your story. Don't assume that you already know it. Really think about it, really dig into it, and learn to communicate it in a powerful way. So thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button below and have a great day.